بسم الله الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. I would like every student to go back from the beginning to the beginning of the chapter of Shk.Abu al-Kaaba, facing the Kaaba, and grab a pen and write as many benefits as possible, because I'm going to be passing by them and add to our book what the Shaykh rahimahullah had said in his book, which is the abbreviated book of the Salah. And there are things there we haven't really added them, so we're going to go through them inshallah. If you got it in the book, then there's no need to put it. But Shk.Abu al-Kaaba, we have said that if the person is about to start his prayer, he needs to face the Kaaba wherever he is, whether it is in the fard or it is in the nafil, the sunnah, whether it is in the obligatory or the supererogatory. And it is a rukn, so you add, it is a rukn, meaning a pillar from the pillars of the prayer, and the prayer will not be accepted without it. This pillar of facing the Kaaba will be exempted in the following cases. Case number one, the person who is in the fight. That is the fighter, which is, we call it the Salat al-Khawf, where if it is in the positions of too much fear, then he doesn't have to face the Kaaba. Number two, the person who is incapable of facing the Kaaba, like the person who is ill, or the person who is in the ship, or in the car, or in the plane, and he was afraid that the prayer time will finish if he had to stop. Also, to be exempted from the person who is praying supererogatory or witr, when he is on the mount or others. But if he's on the ground, he must. But it is preferable for him, when he is on a mount like a car, to start facing the Qibla, and then it doesn't matter where the car goes. To start, so for example, if he positions his car or whatever, or he parks his car and then he starts his prayer, of course as a passenger, not the driver himself, and then wherever the car goes, it doesn't matter. That's what is preferred. And every person who sees the Kaaba, he has to face it with his own eyes. He needs to look at it. The person who cannot see the Kaaba, then if he hasn't got any tools by which he could distinguish the direction of the Kaaba precisely, all he has to face is the whole side. So if it is east, west, between the east and the west, so you've got about 90 degrees basically. And I would say not 80, 90 degrees, sorry, 180 degrees. If the person did not pray to the Kaaba, then if it's out of clouds and he doesn't know and he tried to do it, then his prayer is valid and there is no repetition. And if he was praying and somebody came while he's praying whom he trusts, and he told him about the Qibla direction, he should turn to the Qibla while he's in the prayer, and his prayer to be valid. Go to the second section, which is Qiyam, standing up. We said it is a must upon you to stand up in the prayer, and it is a pillar, except Salat al-Khawf, fear prayer. You don't have to stand up. And in that Salat al-Khawf, he's able as well to pray while he is riding. Also, the ill person who is incapable of standing, then he prays sitting if he can, or on his side, or in his back. As for the person who is doing supererogatory prayer, method, voluntary, then he's able to pray sitting, mounting, and when he makes ruku' and sujood, he does it with his head, not the hands. Also the ill person, he would make his sujood lower than his ruku'. So when his gesture of his sujood, and it is not permissible for him to put a pillow, raise up something, open, in the plane, open that tray with the food and prostrate on it. Is not permissible to do that. Prayer in the ship or the plane is allowed. And I'm saying this because some of the scholars said it's not allowed. That is before the plane invention. Like one of the scholars said, if a person had prayed in a urjuha, meaning like a swing, which is not hooked to the earth, not hooked to the sky, this is before he knew there's a plane, and his prayer is invalid. And that's a plane. Do you understand me? The person prayed in a swing which is not hooked to the top or hooked to the... It means imagining something which he could never imagine before at that time. He never knew about the plane. This is the plane, by the way, because you are in a swing, in a plane. It's not hooked to the top, nor it is hooked to the earth. According to the scholar, it's not allowed. We say it is allowed. Ibn Abdini said that. He prays sitting down if he is fearing to drop, except in the ship, the ship which is a small one. In the plane, we said, you try your best to find a place to pray standing up, otherwise you pray sitting down in the chair. You're allowed to use a stick because of your age or because of weakness. Usage of the stick. Now coming to combining between the two. Is allowed for the person. Sorry? Assalamu alaikum. And it is permissible to pray the night prayer standing up or sitting, even without a reason. So if you are capable of standing, you could sit during the prayer of the voluntary, of Salat al-Layl, Tarawih, all of that, if it's not obligatory. And he also could combine between them. So he would sit and start sitting, and just before he was about to make ruku', he could stand and he would recite whatever he wants to recite standing up, and then he continue making ruku' and sujood. So he starts sitting, just before you make ruku', stand up, recite about whatever left from the verses, and then continue praying. Same thing you could do in the second rak'ah. If you sat, if you remember, we have said, the Shaykh al-Albani, he says here, he would sit cross-legged if he sits. But the Shaykh, I've heard it from him, this is the final version of him, that is the best. To sit, which is according to the prayer, that is muftarish, just like you sit in the tashahhud. If you can't, then you go to the other one, which is tarabbi', cross-legged, or the way which is comfortable for you. Now, prayer in the shoes. You are allowed to pray barefooted, just like you are allowed to pray with your shoes on. And it is preferable, the Shaykh says, to pray in this and in that, whenever the facility is there. And do not overburden yourself to put the shoes on in order to pray with them, or to take them off to pray without it. So if you have got the shoes and You're in a place you can pray without the shoes. You pray with the shoes, you can pray with the shoes. And if you haven't got the shoes, don't put the shoes on in order to pray in them. Unless, as I said, there's a need. For example, you need to put the shoes on because the ground is not really good. And it's hot. You put the shoes on. And you have your shoes on, and you want to pray with that shoes. You want to pray with them, but there's a carpet. You take the shoes off. No. If you took them off, don't put them on your right. Put them on your left. Or if there is somebody on the left, then you put them between your feet. Of course, you can put them far away if there's a place. Pray on the pulpit. Pray on the pulpit is allowed to teach the people. And when he makes the sujood, if there's not enough space for him on the platform, he could go down in order to make sure that his sujood, his prostration, is firm. Just like the Prophet went up and down. Pray to the sutra. We have explained the sutra in detail, but I would like to go and pass on to what the Shaykh had said as in the concise, abbreviated booklet of his. He said, you must pray the sutra. There is no difference between the masjid or other than the masjid, whether the masjid is big or small. And you should get close to it. And between your sujood spot, which is the prostration spot, and between the wall, which is the sutra, is the sheep passage. Now the height of the sutra is to be 1 handspan or 2, just like the backbone of the saddle. That is enough. And he should not really care what goes behind it. And he would direct himself to the middle of the sutra. He does not put the sutra on his right or to his left, because the hadith is not authentic. You could pray towards a stick which is stuck to the ground. You could pray as well to the woman lying down on her bed, as long as she's covered, because if she's not covered, she's going to distract you. Pray as well to the camel, to the animal. Following topic, to prohibition to pray towards the grave. And it's not allowed to pray towards the grave at all, whether it is the graves of the prophets or others. It is prohibited to pass between the praying person and his sutra, even if it's in the Masjid al-Haram. Shaykh is saying there's no difference between the Masjid al-Haram and other masajid. And you should prevent the person who passes between you and your sutra, even in the Masjid al-Haram. Shaykh is saying. And he's adding a point which I have benefited, alhamdulillah, from it, which is, and you could go forward, as we have said, in order, listen, to prevent the person or the animal which has no taklif. That means they're not able to understand. So the child, even the child, so you don't prevent him, but you go forward in order to what? But if he can learn, like he's old enough, 7 or 8, then you could teach him not to pass. But if it's a little baby I'm talking about, you could just make him crawl behind you. You could go forward, make him crawl behind you. And that is something I have benefited myself, because our Sheikh Al-Halabi used to say, the child, no problem. Whereas the Sheikh Al-Albani in his booklet, he says, even the child, you go forward. Also from the points, the Sheikh Rahimahullah says, that this sutra is so important. If the person does not take it, then he is exposing his prayer for jeopardization. If one of the 3 passes between him and his prostration spot. But if he took the sutra, then it doesn't matter. You took the sutra, you push now. What is the sutra for? You push away. But let's say that this woman, she's stubborn. Try to push her, she passed. It is from the injustice to say that it will invalidate your prayer. And that's what the Shaykh Al-Albani said. He had stuck his neck out for this issue. But if you took the sutra, it doesn't matter whether that person passes in front of you between the sutra and yourself or behind it. It doesn't affect you. It only affects the person who does not take sutra. So if that woman, they said that the donkey's stubborn. You try to prevent him, he just passes in front of you. The black dog. You took the sutra, it will not harm you. Now, coming to our book, and I think it is the prayer towards the grave, yes? Right. I'm going to add lots of things today, inshallah, so please bear with us, because there are things there in the asl of the book which hasn't been added, which to do with the clothes of the person who prays. Now,
Bismillah. Page 10. Prophet's prayer described by Shk.Abu. Prohibition of praying facing the grave. He used to forbid prayer facing the grave, saying, "Do not pray towards the graves and do not sit on them."
Right. This hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, "La tajlisu ala al-qubur," don't sit on the grave. This prohibition is not just dislike, it's haram. And the scholars who said it's only dislike, they're wrong. Because the Prophet of Allah, when he says don't, we should take it as haram, and it's being supported as well by other hadiths. Hadith number 1, I think you've got the notes there, haven't you? Have you got the notes? No? No? No, it hasn't got notes. Let me just give you the notes then. Prophet of Allah, he said, it is better for a person to sit on a burning coal to burn his clothes and reaches his skin, better for him than sitting on the grave. Narrated by Muslim. Again, it is better for a person to sit on a burning coal where it will burn his clothes and will get through to his skin, better for him than sitting on the grave. And this hadith of Abu Hurairah, and it's in Sahih Imam Muslim. Following hadith is in Uqbah ibn Amr. The Prophet ﷺ said, it is better for me to walk on a burning coal or a sword, or I would worn out my sandals or my shoes, better for me than walking on the grave of a Muslim. Grave of a Muslim. So the graves that has honors are the graves of the Muslims. And then he says, and I would not really care whether to relieve myself. Relieve myself, I mean to do the excretion. Whether I do it in the middle of the graves or in the middle of the markets. What he's saying, the Prophet of Allah, he said, it is so bad. That is, when you go to the market where people can see you, you can't really do it in front of them, can you? Same thing if you can't. It is as equivalent, as shameful and as bad to do it in between the dead people. Even the dead, they can't see you. So you will not do it in the market, definitely, because people are going to look at you. Same as bad, you can do it as well in the grave where there's dead people as well there. Now this is called honoring the grave. Honoring the grave. So honoring the grave is that you're not allowed to step on top of it, to sit on it, unless there is a darura. What is the darura? Necessity. That the person, he needs to bury somebody else, then maybe he has to go on top of the other grave to make sure that he will dig properly, otherwise he'll fall into the grave. So it minimizes as much as possible stepping on the top of the grave, but that's a necessity. But it is not a necessity just simply go and visit the grave. That not the necessity. To visit the grave, and to visit that grave, you need to step on top of another grave. You're not allowed to do that. Don't go to next to the grave. Go far away. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be next to that grave that you want to be. So let's say that grave of your relative is being surrounded by so many graves that you can't go through to that grave. Unless you're going to step on top of somebody's grave, don't do that. That's not a necessity, as some of the scholars had said. It is not a necessity. On the contrary, Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he says not allowed to step onto the grave except for a necessity. And simply to visit it is not a necessity. You could just visit it from far away. Right. This is called, as I said, honoring the grave. Now, the following paragraph of the hadith, وَلَا تُصَلُّوا إِلَيْهَا, and don't pray towards it. So this is as well the opposite of honoring. Before honoring, don't sit, don't stand on it. That's honoring the grave. Now, don't pray towards it. Praying towards it to what? To honor it. So this honoring is not allowed. The other honoring is allowed. You understand how it is? Honoring it by not sitting on it, by not stepping on top of it, by not walking on it. That's called honoring. Even between the graves, you should be walking with no shoes, unless there is something harmful to your feet. So that's called honoring. But to go to the other extreme, which is to pray towards it, it is haram. Especially if the person, he taken that spot for tabarruk, seeking barakah. That is a bid'ah in the religion. So doing that and adding to it another element of seeking barakah, that is absolutely going to lead to shirk. Prophet of Allah, he said, may Allah curse the Christian and the Jews. They have taken the graves of their prophets are to be places for praying. So when you do pray towards the graves, in the graves, you're going to be acting like the Christian and the Jews by taking that particular grave is to be first of all, just like a guard, or that spot. It became like to you a spot where you like to pray, and you think that it is better than praying in other places. You see, who the people pray in the grave, their belief stems from the following: that the person who's inside that grave is holy, and his holiness, it radiates, emits radiation towards the sand. So the sand around it becomes what? Holy. So when you pray on a holy land, then you are holy man, or your prayer is going to be holy. That's how it is. That's how the people end up worshipping the grave. So they believe that the deceased would pass his holiness with his moist, whatever, the flesh, to the sand, and that's how they take that place. And the Rafidah, of course, they go worse. They take some of that sand and make it as stones to pray on top of it. So for example, that sand whom they think that is the sand of Karbala, where they themselves let Al-Hussein down and he was massacred and killed there. They themselves did that, okay, when they have tricked him. So his blood was spilled on top of that ground. So they believe that ground became holy. So they go and take from that sand and make that small stone, okay, where they pray. They bring it even in Mecca, but they don't show it to you. Even in the Holy Land, it's not holy enough for them. It's more holy to pray on that little stone. Okay? Even some of them it is not really valid prayer if they pray on the normal ground. And I don't know whether these things are correct, they're being, made from the Karbala or in China. I don't know. It will be anywhere. So these people could make money out of these things, they're the one who fool the people. I feel like those people who are Rafidah, who are not really the scholars of theirs, they're fool. They've been miskeen, taken from their heads and follow whatever their scholars say. Right. Some of the scholars, they said that the person, if he goes to a specific grave to seek barakah from it, this is actually the actual shirk. And this is the actual bid'ah. It's from the haram. And Some people take shrines on top of those graves. And these shrines, they are even worse than the Masjid of Dirar, whom the Prophet of Allah demolished. Because it's been founded on the sinning and disobeying of the Prophet of Allah. Masjid of Dirar, why was it demolished? Because the foundation of it is to actually split the believers. That's why the Prophet of Allah demolished it. Those graves who made shrines, they are made to make people to make shirk. So they should be demolished. And that's what the Prophet of Allah had said to Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. That is, any grave you see which is sticking out of the ground, level it. Level it. This is the wasiyah of the Prophet of Allah to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Any grave which is above the ground, that is more than one handstand, more than the sand that comes out of it, and there's a shrine, demolish it. And that's why Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, when he started his Tawheed da'wah, you remember which shrine he demolished? Zayd ibn al-Khattab, the cousin of Umar. It was in Saudi Arabia. He went there with 600 fighters to demolish it. So that is why the Tawheed was fought at the time of the Sufism, and they said, look at the Wahhabis, they are demolishing the graves of the Muslims. But actually those people never called themselves Wahhabis. And the why he got the 600 fighters, because you cannot take down a grave which people, they go and make tawaf because they believe it's from the era of the followers, and that means it's holy man. So that's why he needed 600 fighters in order to demolish that shrine. Right. And we could see here that the Prophet ﷺ had told off those people who had taken these things as to be shirk, and the way he had said it, even he said it in a way which is very sharp tongue, very sharp tone. The Prophet of Allah, a number of times, if he says something which is shirk, he will not really treat the issue is that this person, he is good intention. He will treat the action. So when the person who had said to the Prophet of Allah, Ma sha'Allahu wa shi'ta ya Rasulullah, that if Allah wills and you will, O Messenger of Allah. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam said, Aja'altani lillahi nidda. Did you make me as a rival with God, equal to God? Say, if Allah wills on His own. Do you think the Prophet of Allah doesn't know that companion never meant to make the Prophet of Allah equal to God? Never meant to make him a mushrik or sharik or a partner with God, because he knows those companions, he brought them up. And he knows that as soon as he believed in Allah and followed the Prophet of Allah, he done that to flee from the shirk, true or not? But he never stopped admonishing him in the, you could say, very strong tone, I wouldn't say harsh tone. He said, did you make me equal to God? Now, no matter how you're going to say that phrase, you can't just say, don't make, did you make me equal to God? You can't say it like that. It has to be with a what? Did you make me equal to God? So that is a strong tone. And the Prophet of Allah did not say, oh, well, hang on a second, this person, he's got good intention in his heart. I'm saying this because there are some shuyukh calling themselves shuyukh or awliya or whatever. They go to those shrines and graves. When they've been told off, they say, no, we've got good intention. We don't want to worship them. We don't want to stay next to them to worship them. We have good intention. We just want to, honor them and all of that. Rubbish. That is rubbish. So the Prophet of Allah, straight away, he said to him, did you make me as equal to Allah? Say, if Allah wills on His own. He never ever treated the issue from the intention point of view. So when a person does something wrong, we don't really say, oh, maybe he means that. We have to address the issue. Leave the intention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. Also from the Prophet ﷺ's hadith, don't pray to the graves, don't sit on it. Lots of ahadith came to support such a hadith. And those ahadith can be seen in the book of the Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. It's called تحذير الساجد من اتخاذ القبور مساجد. The warning for the person who prays to take the graves are places for prayer. It's a great book, from the first books that the Shaykh has done. And also Ahkam al-Janaz, which is being translated, but there is a book for Al-Jibali about the funeral procession, and it's all of it based upon Shaykh Albani's book, but he's got extra Jazakallah khairan with those pictures where he shows the lahad and he shows the shaq and all of those, which are beneficial. Jazakallah khairan. Now, take your pen and add. For those who hasn't got the original salah, then you have to add now. I'm going to talk about something that's nothing to do with your book, which is the al-libasu fi salah. That is the clothes in the prayer. And I'm going to be slow so you can really understand what I'm talking about. Al-libasu fi salah. So the clothes in the prayer. The clothes in the prayer. You don't have that in your book at all. Okay? But for those who have the original, like this is the original, asl. So you'll find it there in Arabic, of course. I don't think there's an English translation for that. I don't think so. Let me try to summarize as much as I can. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to enter in the prayer whatever clothes he's got. So he did not take a specific garment. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not, for example, this is for praying and this is for playing. This is for praying and this is for baking. There's no such there's no such thing that this is. So whatever clothes is on him and is covering the awrah, he would take it as for praying, except for the prayer of the Jumu'ah. Where in the Jumu'ah, he would put the best of his clothes, because it's Eid. He used to put hulla hamra, red. And I'm saying red with loud voice, because some people think there's a dislike to pray with something red. No, you could have red. Red color, you know the red color? Just like that brothers are dressed like that. No problem, the red color. Everyone's looking at you, but I'm sorry. It made you famous. And he used to have izar. Izar, you know izar? Izar is like the wrapping of the ihram in the clothes. Izar. And a rida, which is on the top. So the two pieces. That's the two pieces. Now, you have the two pieces, but mashallah, our two pieces were really long. Okay, another one which is underneath, which is the sirwal. But the sirwal, before, is either sirwal or izar, like a piece of cloth wrapping. Okay? And the Prophet ﷺ, he used to command, he used to say that if anyone were to pray, then let him put the izar and then let him to put the rida on it. He made a prohibition for a person to pray in sirwal without a rida. That means to cover the bottom side without covering the what? Top side. The rida is to cover the top side. But also in this hadith, telling us that if the sirwal as well is not big enough, and you haven't got a top garment to cover the back side of yours, the awrah which is between your navel and your knees, also it is not really, it is disliked. And it will be more disliked the tighter that sirwal is. But if your sirwal, mashallah, like the original Pakistani ones, not the upgraded ones, or downgraded, they're going to tighter and thinner and tighter and thinner. Like the, for the women as well, the sisters for the Pakistanis, before it was really bad, you know, tighter, thinner, tighter and thinner. Just to go and follow up with the trend and the fashion, but yadu billah. Or even better, the sirwal of the Bilad al-Sham. Bilad al-Sham sirwal, if you go into it, you don't really see if it's a sirwal or not. I mean, you can't see the split between the two legs. That's how baggy it is. The Kurdish is similar, but Bilal Sham is even bigger. They used to say that you could smuggle a TV inside it. That's how big it is. Massive. And Bilal Sham, in Syria used to do it. They used to have it. Massive. And Kurdish people, they have it, and as the brother had told us as well. I have seen the Kurdish, but the Kurdish as well, they've been downgraded now, downsized. Right. Also the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if one of you is to pray, then let him put his two pieces of garment, top and the one at the bottom. For verily Allah has more priority to beautify yourself for Him. Just like when you go for your interview, you do your best to look nice. So how about praying before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Isn't it from the priority to beautify yourself for Allah Azza wa Jal? So, Prophet of Allah, he said, let him put the izar on. Now, I'm going to explain to you as well, if the person has got one garment, in a minute. And he says here, don't let the person to make ishtimal, just like the Jews. The ishtimal of the Jews, when they put something on top of them, they don't put their hands out. So they don't put their hand. When you pray, your hands are supposed to be out. So for example, if you have a garment, and you haven't got sleeves of it, then you should really wrap it around you, and put your hands on it. So you wrap of it, and you put your hands on top of it. You don't pray inside, without putting your hands through the sleeves. So, this is called the ishtimal of the Jews. Now, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, if the person prays in one garment, then he should tie it up on his neck. Meaning, let's say that the person has got one garment and he hasn't got anything to cover, that garment should be tight, and then some of it is to go from underneath and forward to what? To cover the shoulders. One will go from the left to the right and right to the left. Do you understand that? So if you have one izar, and this izar is long, you know, because they have like izar, it's like a wrapping thing, isn't it? So once you wrap your bottom, whatever is left, okay, you do one here on one side. So it's got two pieces. One is, when you wrap it, it's got two ends. One goes there to cover the shoulder, and the other one goes to the other one. This is for a person who's got one garment. In the time of the Prophet of Allah, most of the people, they haven't got two garments, two pieces of clothes. They've got only one. So if you have your only one izar, then you use that to cover your shoulders with. And let's see now how some of the companions, we call it yatawashshuh, tawashshuh is, you know, when you go to Mecca, how do you expose your shoulders? You remember? Yes? Yes. So if you don't expose your shoulders, like, so if you have izar, you could tie it up, and the two ends, you could throw them from the back onto your front, or from the front to the back. As long as you cover what? Your shoulders. Now, Prophet ﷺ, he says, if you have two garments, then put izar and then put rida. If you have one garment, then let him make this tawashshuh. They make it izar and make tawashshuh here. Then he prays. Right. Prophet ﷺ, he prayed in a jubba. Jubba, like a jacket. Shamiyah, from Bilad Sham. That means, from whom? From the Romans. ضيقة الكمين. And it's got tight sleeves. You know the izar, the thawb, it's got really like a loose, you could say. Something I could really make like this and make wudu. The other ones, they're very tight. You can't even put them up because... So, here, we find that the Prophet ﷺ, he had jubba shamiyah. Another hadith, Jubba Rumiya, from Rome. Oh, that's something that we need to learn about this. So it is a jacket made by the Christians. And every time he wants to make wudu, and he would like to take his hand to make the wudu, it will be too tight on him. So what he does like that. I can't do it, mate. He will take his hands from inside the sleeves and get it out from the jacket. Do you understand what I'm saying? He will take it out because he can't do like this, too tight on him. You know, if you've got a jacket, you can't roll it. So he'll take his off and then he will put it from underneath and then he will make his wudu. And there will be underneath that jubba a qamis. It's not really on the skin. That jacket is on top of what? Qamis. Because it will be shown if there is nothing underneath it. Right. Now, this as well, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah makes an elaboration. He says, as for those very wide sleeves, those are the people who they put it for showing off. And unfortunately, there are people who are known to be the religious figures. They put this special imamah. It's like a massive wheel or tire. Okay, size, I don't know, Allahu A'lam, special. It's to do with how high he is. For example, I've seen the one in Lebanon, it's like that. Or from this way and going that way. So his head is this and then his ends up like that. It's like a collecting barakah. Massive. And that's called, that's a shuhra. This is for fame. They've got jubba. You know, if you've seen their sleeves, that's why you could smuggle TVs inside them. Very big sleeves. Those sleeves, number one, waste of material. Number two, extravagance. Number three, it is showing off. Number four, and worse, none of the campaigns have done that. To have these massive sleeves. It is for showing off. Libas al-shuhra. Now, in the hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah, he says, the Prophet of Allah, he came out to relieve himself. When he got back, I got him the water, the lota, to go and make him wudu. And I started to pour on him to make the wudu. So he had washed his hand, and he washed his face, and then he wanted to wash his arms. He couldn't take his hand, he couldn't take the jubba back. So what he did, he took his hand out of them, and he washed them, and then he wiped his head, wiped it over his foot, and then he led us in the prayer. So he had a very tight jubba from the Rome, Shamiyya. And it was, another narration, from wool. From wool. So it's like, those jackets were not known to the Saudi Arabians, to the ones that are in the Arabian Peninsula, which is a woolen jacket, like because the Romans are in a Sham, cool country. And they are more advanced in the materials or the clothes that would make you warmer. Because in the Arabian Peninsula, it is clothes which makes you cooler. Right, now, this is, as I said, very important to know. So is it permissible for us to get benefit from the clothes of the kuffar? Yes, it is. And you're not allowed to use them unless they are impure. But we know for a fact that the Sharia told us not to imitate the disbelievers in their clothes. True or not? Yes? And the Prophet of Allah, he saw Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma, two garments which has the mu'asfarain. Mu'asfarain, it's got two things in it. The dye and the color. That's why it's haram. The dye. It's not the color itself. Because the Prophet of Allah said, they used to put what? The red. The dye, which makes it like maroon. So the dye, usfur itself. So he said, this is from the clothes of the kuffar, take it off. So the Prophet ﷺ, if he had told Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As that this clothes is from the kuffar, don't put it on, take it off, yet he himself, the Prophet of Allah, put the jacket, which is made from Rome, came from Bilad Sham, and he used to use it, and he used to make wudu in it, and also he led the prayer in it. How do we reconcile? Answer is simple. It's basically, there are two types of clothes. One clothes, which is universal for disbelievers and believers. And if the person puts it on, he will not be said that he is imitating the kuffar. Whereas there is other ones, which is, that is special for the rabbis, the priests, like the rope, like the bishops, they put like this rope, and they put this a time built in the middle. That is not allowed for a Muslim to put it on. So that is made for the kuffar. So the kuffar distinguish themselves with it. Whereas at the moment, a person is putting a jacket. Like this brother's got a jacket, huh? Who said he's gonna, oh, he's westernized? Nobody would say that. Your brother's got a jacket as well. This is not made by the Arabs as well. A person's got a hood here. So nobody would set him aside. He is mixing and mingling amongst the Muslims and no difference. But there are, if somebody now has got this the sorcerer hat, the hat like this. I'll tell you what, Jack the Ripper hat. It's called the Jack the Ripper hat. Or what's his name? That person who is with the pipe, and he's Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes hat. Sherlock Holmes hat. And a tie, which is like this. Definitely, we Muslims are going to look at him. Huh? Is he Muslim or is he not? So there's distinguishing clothes, and there are clothes which have became normal. And the Jubba Rumiyah, the jacket, became normal, and the Prophet of Allah had put it on. As for that garment which Abdullah ibn Amr had put, then it is from the kuffar, and the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." He emulates a certain people, then he's from them. Also, the Prophet ﷺ used to sometimes to pray in a burd, lahu hadrami. It's from Hadramaut, a clothes from Hadramaut. And also, he used to pray in one garment, and he used to put the ends of it on his shoulders. Just to show you that if you are with one garment, you need to cover your shoulders. And this hadith has been narrated in a number of narrations, that the Prophet of Allah had prayed in one garment. In number of narrations, and there is no need for me to read all these hadith, but we could see clearly the Prophet of Allah used to pray in one garment. And even one day, Shk.Abu Hakim, he said, we have entered upon Jabir ibn Abdullah, the companion, and he was praying in one garment, yet he has his rida and qamis, which is the other part. So he got one garment, which is the izar, and putting it on the shoulder, yet the other part, which is on the top, is hanging on the hook. So when he finished, we said to him, why did you pray like this? Why have you prayed like that? And I liked his answer. He said, because I want somebody who's fool like you to ask him that question. I want somebody who's fool like you to ask me that question. For verily, since when we used to have two garments? For verily, since when we used to have what? That's how poor they were. So he made this deliberately. Okay? To show that it is no problem to pray in that. And the Prophet ﷺ, he himself as well, he did that, where he prayed in one garment, yet he had two. So what he did, the Messenger of Allah, he put the top lined up with the bottom, and he wrapped them together. Even he had two, but he made them what? One, in order to show that it is permissible to do it. And that is a very strong proof for that. Right, so if you have two garments, it's better to pray what? In the two. If you have one, then you pray what? With one, but make sure that you what? Cover shoulders. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, had made it compulsory to cover the shoulders. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal on his own, he said it is compulsory to cover the shoulders. Not only that, in one of his sayings, he said, it will be invalid prayer if you have exposed one of the shoulders. Whereas the other scholars, like Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, they said it is just recommended. It's no problem to pray with your shoulders exposed. Shk.Abu rahimahullah, he says, the opinion of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal is strong, because the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يصلين أحدكم, none of you to pray in one garment except that there is something on his what? On his shoulders. Shaykh al-Albani says yes, Imam Ahmad's opinion is more proper, but to say that it is prayer is invalid, the Shaykh, he says, I can't really dare to say that. Because is it, now when it is compulsory, is it a condition or not a condition? But all my life, heard the Shaykh rahmatullah alayhi, I always understood from him that if you don't cover your shoulder, your prayer is invalid. Ali al-Qari, he says that the person, when he covers his shoulders, he is closer to be in adab. Adab means politeness and manners before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more to modesty and shyness, and better to have the full adornment for the prayer. Oh, son of Adam, when you pray, take your clothes, take your adornment to beautify yourself before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for, as I said, the other scholars, they said, which is the Jumhur, it is disliked, but it's not haram. And we said the correct opinion is to say it is compulsory. Now, after we, alhamdulillah, we discuss what time is the adhan? Now, inshallah, and we finish. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. So the last thing we established regarding the prayer in the garment, we said if you have the two garments, the izar on the top of it, then it is better to pray in them. Whereas if you have one, then you make sure that you cover your shoulders. And the person should really avoid all the time to pray in trousers if they are tight. And it's better to have something which is long to cover the area between the navel and the knees. Especially, the area which is to cover the backside of the person. Your common awrah between you and your woman, between you and the woman, is between the navel and the knees. This is a common awrah, meaning you need to cover it just like the woman needs to cover it. And the Prophet ﷺ, in terms of the clothes, he would make sure that when he comes to the prayer, he would be just like as good as meeting somebody else outside. Because if the person is shy to meet the people outside in such clothes, he should not be praying in them. And that is why the Prophet of Allah, he said, Inna Allah ahaqqu ayyutazayyana lahu. Verily, it is Allah has got more priority for you to beautify yourself. Some of the scholars, they talked about praying without covering the head. Now, covering the head, Shaykh al-Albani goes to the opinion that it is disliked to pray without covering the head. It is disliked to pray with covering the head. And the Shaykh rahimahullah uses the argument is that the Prophet of Allah never been seen praying without covering the head. And also, when he had commanded us to pray in the shoes in order to be different from the Jews, like before we have said, so what is the difference between as well the shoes and what the covering of the head? So if the shoes, to pray in them to be different from the Jews, is being talked about something on the foot, then more priority goes to the what? To the top. So the top as well distinguishes you from the Jews. So it is better for the person to cover his head whenever he prays, and that is the Shaykh's opinion, rahimahullah's opinion. So now we leave it inshallah for next week, when we be talking about the prayer of the woman, the garment of the woman. What is the woman supposed to be having? There is some as well elaboration regarding what we have said. We have make a mark also there where we left it, and we will inshallah continue from talking about the clothes, because there are still bits of the clothes, and then we will talk about the intention inshallah. Now next week and the week after, that will be inshallah a Hajj seminar. So for those who don't Hajj, you don't have to come if you wish. So it's going to be next week, and the next week, Monday and Wednesday. It will be Hajj seminar. Then there will be no classes for the 22nd and the 29th and the 5th. So 3 weeks on the rot. Okay, there will be no classes. So I will be outside the country. So for 3 weeks, there will be no classes. From Monday the 22nd, mark them, Wednesday 25th, Monday 29th, Wednesday the 31st, Monday the 5th of September, Wednesday the 7th of September. We'll resume, inshallah, that is not the 12th of September, I'll be here, but it will be the day after Eid. I don't think people would like to come after Eid. So I'll give it on Wednesday. Is that okay? So we start on the 14th, alright? The 14th of Kitab al-Tawheed. The 12th, I think the Eid will be on the 11th or the 10th, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you what, if the Eid is on the 10th, we will make Monday, but I think maybe the Eid will be on the 11th, which is the Sunday. Okay, I think and I believe the Eid will be, so it will be Sunday, no Monday class, alright? So the Eid is Sunday, I don't have what we have Monday, because people don't want to go with family and so on and so forth. Right, is that okay? So we'll start on the 14th, unless Eid happens to be Saturday, then we'll start on Monday. Okay? Is that fine, inshallah? Khair, inshallah. Right. So Hajj seminar, which is the PowerPoint presentation. Please tell those people who want to make Hajj, do Hajj. We will go different way this time. But first of all, not just PowerPoint. I'm going to go with the book. The class next week after Maghrib. After that, you caught me here. I'm not really prepared for that question. 14th of September, when does the clock goes back? Is it the end of October, isn't it? I think still after Maghrib. Still after Maghrib, sure. We'll make it after Maghrib. Because Maghrib will not be earlier than 7, will it? I don't think so. No. I don't think it's going to go an hour and a half. No way. So it's no problem. Make it after Maghrib, sure. Now. Fadal.
Yeah, I think it's because of the country, when the people do the burials, it makes the graves much more than a high time due to the fact that the mud will sink afterward. What's the best thing for us to do?
Okay. Question is that in this country that they put the sand much more than a handspan because they believe that that sand will go in with the rain. And that question is not related to our salah, but it's related to what we have done today, which is the janazah. If the people who are expert and they reckon that that sand will go in, and it definitely will go in, I know that, then no harm to put sand, but it's not really high. So if it's 2 handspan, it's no problem, but to make a mountain and they say that the mountain is going to sink, it's not right. So we'll put 2 handspan, 3 handspans, and we'll see that it's gone back down, we'll put more, okay? That's no problem, inshallah. But as long as it doesn't make it like looking like a building or a shrine, that's the most important thing. Now, and today, as a point of elaboration here, we have seen today the burial of the mother of our brother, Qadr. May Allah have mercy upon her. And we have seen as well some sunnahs being implemented. But there are things which I myself would emphasize to the brothers to make sure that they prepare for them. That cloth which had the recitation of the Quran, that should be prepared for, because usually the cars that carry the deceased are either Brelwis or people who are just nothing. So you are people who are knowledgeable. You should prepare already that the car is going to come with such a cloth. So that cloth should not come at all in that car, which is the Quran cloth. And we have seen that that Quran was, being put on the floor and the brother putting his foot on top of it and using it as the cover. It's not supposed to be the covering. And we understand it's a female, but there was no, at the time of the Prophet of Allah, covering the female like this with pieces of cloth. As long as she's shrouded properly, there is no problem. Even the daughter of the Prophet of Allah, when she died, Zainab, and there was the burial of hers, and she was the wife of Uthman radiallahu anhu. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was there, he asked, who amongst you had not made intercourse that night to lower her down? So that question was made public. Who had not been touched his wife intercourse sexual wise that night, which is, last night. The night precedes the burial. Uthman did not go in, her husband. And the Prophet of Allah himself did not go in. There's a person who is totally stranger for that woman, for that Zainab, Talha, radiallahu anhu, Ibn Ubaydillah al-Ansar, Talha ibn Ubaydillah, he went down in the grave to lower her, even though he was what? Not a mahram, stranger. Other than that, alhamdulillah, that we have seen today, a burial took place without a reminder, which is good. Because these days, sometimes people think the reminder is part of the burial. So the reminders became like the norm. And that's not right. And the dua is supposed to be individually. People make dua and not make dua, but to stand up all together and make dua and raise in the hands, that wasn't really from the companions' etiquettes. For the Prophet of Allah said, إِنَّهُ يُسْأَلْ فَسَدُ لَهُ تَثْبِيتٍ. Verily, your brother is being questioned, so ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to firm him in the questions. So the person would sit, not to stand up, and call Allah upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if he's got the time to sit. But those who are relatives of the deceased, it is better for them to sit about 20 to half an hour. Just like if a person wants to slaughter a camel and he wants to spread the meat amongst the people, how long does it take it to slaughter and to skin off and to spread the meat? That's about 20 to 25 to half an hour. That's for the people who are close to the relative to stay behind. Right, and the throwing of the 3 sands, I have seen as well the brothers, they're doing it, which is a sunnah, but it is not to be done until the grave is finished, almost. So when the grave is finished, when the people do the shovel, take the water and finish the whole grave, and after that the people come to throw the 3 hands. 3 hands is not here to fill up the graves. No matter what you're going to do, no matter how many thousands of hands, they're not going to fill up anything. Okay, it's just to do it through the 3 throws on the head. So where the head is, the people, they were not really doing it on the head, they were doing it everywhere. So the 3 throws on the head, and there's no, as well, supplication with it to accompany it, like مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. All of that as well is not being established to be authentic. Apart from that, the graveyard itself, you could see the effect of being buried in a place which is, there is no separation properly between us and the ones who are non-Muslims. You could see the effect of that the people following the trend of the kuffar. You have seen paper fans there. Okay, you've seen flowers. No? So if somebody really capable of going there and taking the flowers, he used them for himself in the house. So better to be putting them there and making like a garden. Or the paper fans, give it to his kids, maybe better, because the one who's down in the grave is not no use for him, the paper fan basically. Because they buy them. They buy them, they put them there. And it's all of it imitation of the kuffar. Allah musta'an. But alhamdulillah, we don't have shrines. That's good. See, in the Muslim countries like Pakistan, where I've been to, yes, they don't have paper fans, but they have shrines, which is worse. They have mazar sharif, no sharif Allah. So shirk, mazar shirk. People, they go there and they kiss the grave and they do all sorts of shirk in ibadah. And even one of them, they've got wali, it's got like a lock, I've seen it, and they open it on a certain day, and the people come and, they kiss that lock, and then they go inside to the shrine, and I don't know who that man is inside, maybe he's a good man. And then they start doing sujood on him. Allah musta'an. This is very bad. And some people as well use that as to, like going to the fun fair, take money, tickets. So it's becoming very bad. So Allah musta'an. And that's what I've seen in the graveyards. It should be separated totally with a fence. We should have. Then I understood later on that the cemeteries in itself, it was Muslim areas somewhere in the north, some Muslim areas in the east, and then when they fill up, they go to a different area. We'd have wished that one area for the whole of the Muslims. But when I saw it, it was a really small graveyard for looting people, lots of Muslims here. Then somebody told me no, because in the front there's a section for the Muslim, it filled up with a section for the Muslim. We'd have wished that all the Muslims in one section. And you know that looting is a lot of Muslim people here. We'd have wished that for you to purchase your own graveyard. You know the Jews, they have their own graves. Okay? The Jews have their own graves. They don't mix up with the Christians. Except from the atheists. But the Jews, they have their own graveyards. And they even travel for it. So the Muslims are much more than the Jews. And they should have as well more money. And if they go to if they purchase their own land, there's no problem about that. Okay? So, if the Muslims get together, which is very hard, and inshallah purchase a Muslim graveyard, that would be fantastic. What I was really happy with today is that the council was so lenient to let the brothers to take the deceased, the corpse, the body, and lay it down without the box. We can't really have that in my county, in High Wycombe, which is Buckinghamshire. We can't have that. Even the council will make sure there will be 2 men there or 3 just watching you. They don't really let go. You're going to lower the box, you're not going to take the body from the box and put it inside. So to put that and to make it with a slab like this is very fantastic. Alhamdulillah. That is from the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah. We've seen the slabs and we've seen the mud and we've seen, mashallah. So also I would recommend the person to tell his family if he's to die, not to put any granite and those headstones which cost 400, 500 pounds, 600 pounds, a lot of money. Just a little, you could say a wooden, square thing, right in the name of the person, and that's it, it's enough. And Allah, inshallah, make it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to die except in a land where there's a Muslims, better. But if you want to have that supplication to be fulfilled, make sure that you visit the Muslim lands. Okay, because you're not going to be, dying in a Muslim land if you don't really travel to a Muslim land. If Allah wants you to die in a certain land, He will let you to have something to do there, and then He will take your soul. And that will be a good sign, alhamdulillah. Now, تفضل. If a person had used an object which has been designed to be a sutra, there is no problem. So somebody, for example, you started to sell sticks that grows, extends, for the person to carry with him. It's not like having a little purse where it's got everything inside it. Like for example, it's got the prayer mat, you could lay it down, plus a stick to make it front of the stick, and plus this compass for and maybe a little bottle as well for wudu. That would be good. Yeah. But the other thing which we don't want is another one, which is for the beard, another one for the hat. So in the prayer you put the beard and then you put the hat on. That's what we don't want. Should be the Muslims all the time. So another bag for the clothes of the prayer, another bag for the tools of the prayer. This should not be like this. Now, Fadal. It is disliked to have a pure red. Dislike. There is no such thing. And as I said, I just emphasized today, red. The maroon color, the burgundy color. You know the burgundy color? That's the one they talk about, which is the mu'asfar. We say, no, the burgundy color. I used to have a jacket, burgundy, and I used to sit in front of the Shk.Abu, deliberately. It's my well-known burgundy color jacket I used to have. Well-known, the burgundy color man. The one which is not allowed is that specific dye. Okay? which goes with that color. And the people who knows about this, we call them al-attarun, the ones who sell this stuff. Now, in English. تفضل. ما في انجلش؟ طلع عربي.
شوية عربي يعني.
يلا تفضل عربي، تفضل بس مش باكستاني.
كنت عايز اسال اذا نرفع اليدين في الصلاة في دليل ولا ما فيش دليل؟
Is there any proof that the person تتكلم عربي ولا انجليزي؟
انا اتكلم عربي بس هو يتكلم انجليزي.
You understand English? He's making a question on your behalf.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying, brother? He's making a question on your behalf. His question is saying that your question is that is there any proof for the person to raise up his hands in the salah? Right. Okay, let's just meet bit by bit go. First of all, do you raise up your hands for takbirat al-ihram? Okay. Do you need a proof for that? So you're already fine with this. So you're asking now when you go to the ruku' or up from the ruku'. Yes? Okay, is it? We have not one, tens of proofs. Tens of proofs. From Abdullah ibn Umar, from Wa'il ibn Hujr, from Uthman, from lots of companions. And that's the book is about it. Now, you're asking me because you come from the Hanafi madhab? Yes. And I'm saying Abu Hanifa as well says it. How does he say it? Listen to me now. Abu Hanifa, he said it, but he didn't say it. But he said the following. If the hadith is authentic, then it is what? My sayings. So I am more Hanafi than you. Because Abu Hanifa said, if the hadith is authentic, then it's my saying. So it is wrong to say Abu Hanifa said, you don't raise up your hands. Because Abu Hanifa saw the hadith that I saw myself. That if you saw the hadith brought by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim who came much, much later after Abu Hanifa would not hesitate to say, raise up your hands. Do you understand me now? Okay. Does Abu Hanifa say drinking beer made of dates or made of wheat halal or not? If he said yes, I would say to you, wrong, even though he said it. Even though he said it. If you said yes, he said it. Yes, he said it, but it's wrong to say that he had said it. Yes, he said to drink beer. Beer. From wheat, you know, like the normal beer. From Hobson's, from dates. There's no problem as long as you don't get drunk. Well, you know, that's wrong, isn't it? We have found that the hadith of the Prophet of Allah, he said, he who drinks a drink, too much of it makes you drunk, then little of it is what? Haram. I say Abu Hanifa says, it is haram, even though he did not say it. Because Abu Hanifa said, if the hadith is authentic, it's my madhab, methodology. So we respect Abu Hanifa more than the ones who say I'm Hanafi. Rahimahullah, Abu Hanifa, great man. But every person makes mistakes. So you raise up your hands when you go to the ruku' and up from the ruku'. And also there's another one, Prophet Allah used to do it, from the second rak'ah, after you finish the tashahhud, go to the third rak'ah, you raise up the hands before you stand up. Is that okay? Jazakallahu khairan. Translate for him in Arabic. Tfadal. When you get up from the first?
No.
From the first sajda?
No. After the Imam gives the taslim.
Yes.
Then if you get up to make up the salah.
When I make up for the salah, do I need to make up raising up the hands? It depends. Which rak'ah did you join? So if, for example, you join the last bits, you did not join a rak'ah, the Imam is finished, you don't make because it is going up not to the third rak'ah. And already your first rak'ah, which is takbirat al-ihram, you've done it with when you joined in. So you treat whatever you have caught up is the beginning of your prayer. And then you count now. Third rak'ah, you do it. So if you've done the second, you go into the third, yes, after the Imam's finished, you get up with your hands up. Further.
It's any in the hadith that talk about if somebody gives up something in the dunya and the akhirah, that person is all the music and
Any person who makes repentance to Allah, whatever is a punishment was at the beginning, it will not be applicable on him. Okay? Now, can the person put his thobe on, does not pray with inside clothes like underwears and sirwals? No problem, as long as it is not thin clothes that will stick to his aura and show it, or see-through clothes that will show your aura. No problem about that. So if you have a thick thobe, thick dishdasha, no problem, inshallah. Now,
a question from the sister. Is it permissible for women to visit the graves because they want?
is it permissible for the women to visit the graves? Because
Because in one hadith it says women who visit the grave
Because the one hadith says one woman visit the grave,
are cursed.
accursed.
Whereas another hadith prophet encourages people to visit their graves.
Right, the hadith that the sister is talking about is authentic but is not translated properly. The hadith says, Allah, may Allah curse the woman who visits the graves frequently. Zawarat, not za'irat, the one who visits them not frequently. And we respect the opinion of our mashayikh, like Sheikh Ibn Baz or Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, and most of the mashayikh comes from the Hijaz, where they said it is not allowed and they prevent the women to go to Baqi' al-Gharqad. But their opinion is wrong. With the respect to the shuyukh, our Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah had pointed out that this hadith, which is لَعْنَ اللَّهُ الزَّائِرَاتِ, there is another hadith, the visitors, is unauthentic. Sunan al-Tirmidhi, and this hadith is unauthentic. The one which is authentic, Zawara, the one pays frequently. And we know from Aisha radiallahu anha, she, after the Prophet of Allah, paid a visit to her brother's grave, and even she's been asked by Urwa, he said, "Shouldn't we be forbidden from visiting the graves?" He said, "Yes." She said, "Yes, but that was at the beginning." And he's not asking about women, he's asking about everybody. So he said, "Yes, that was at the beginning." And then later on, the Prophet ﷺ, he had commanded us to visit the graves. Now, yes, Aisha, she makes sometimes verdicts are wrong, but we know that the Prophet ﷺ, he had made, as Atiyah, she said, he led us to, he had dislike for us to follow the funeral, but he never emphasized that. That means if she needs to come to follow the funeral far away, not mixing from the men, and because her father or her son or whatever, there's no problem about that. So visiting the graves, we do have more than one proof to say that it is allowed for the women, but not frequently. Not what? Frequently. The hadith includes men and women. If you want further discussion regarding this issue, go no further than the book of Ahkam al-Janaza, or Janaza, Shaykh al-Albani, and the translation of that of Dr. Jabali, of the funeral procession. Any person who did not ask question, please.
If you're trying to get to a grave of a family member, obviously the gap is quite narrow. Can you walk through that gap, or
if it's the person wants to go on to visit somebody's grave, a relative of his, and it is between graves where the gap is narrow, can he walk between the narrow graves? No problem, as long as he does not step on top of the grave. But I would urge that person to take his shoes off. As soon as he comes to the graves and he wants to walk between the graves, take his shoes off, unless the ground, let's say it's muddy, the ground is poking or harmful to the person, and then you put your shoes off. Otherwise, take your shoes off and revive the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and you could minimize as well to step onto the grave by walking in between. Because I think, regardless of your grave, there will be a gap somehow to get to it. There will be.
sometimes over the years it's just you can't make out the gaps?
Okay. Then you have to estimate. Alright, to estimate. Now, I know what you're talking about. I'm going to استنى شوي. تفضل.
Is there any proof that it's like to pray in a shirt which doesn't cover your elbows?
Is there any proof to say that it is disliked to pray with a shirt that does not cover your elbows? There is no such proof. You could pray with a shirt that does not cover your elbow, but it's not good for the imam. if the people doesn't see that right fitting. So the Imam, he's like in this place, they got used to him to pray with the short sleeves, as long as it's got its topi and everything, there's no harm. But some of the countries, they find it rude if the Imam is not in full gear. And they don't like him to lead the prayer, even though themselves, they're not dressed up properly, but they don't like the Imam to be not dressed up properly. So they like the Imam to be dressed up full, yet they themselves, they are falling short into that. Okay, a person who did not ask a question, please. Father, uncle. Now, I'm covering the head, uncle. There's other brothers who say there is no dalil. Or I will say to you that they will say this is not from the ibadah, this is from the ada. How can we discuss it? First of all, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray as you have seen me pray. Now we haven't seen the Prophet ﷺ praying, but we have the narrations from the companions that talks about the prayer of the Prophet of Allah as we are seeing him. And if it is the case, we have noticed in the hadith of the Prophet of Allah that none of them says that the Prophet of Allah, whether he's inside his house or outside his house, whether it is in the war or even the safety positions, where he used to pray with no hat. Number two, where the Prophet of Allah, he said, Inna Allah ahaqqu ay yutazayyana lah. Allah has more right for you to beautify yourself to him. Now, the argument is that now at the moment, without a hat is beautification. But the beautification, brothers, is to do with the Islamic environment. So if that environment being polluted to such an extent that the shorts became beautifications, then open shirt became a beautification. Lots of things which opposes the natural clothes that was at the time of the Prophet of Allah to be the beautification, that does not change the rule of his deen and the Islam. Now these days, it could be beautification to put maybe the Texas hat, the Texas hat. So if you are in America, put in the Texas hat. Okay? So that does not change the original situation at the time of the Prophet of Allah. Now, when Nafi', the slave, the servant of Abdullah ibn Umar, was praying without a hat, Allah ibn Umar came to him and he said to him, would you be able to go out to the market like this? He said, no. He said, well, verily Allah has more priority for you to beautify yourself to him. Put your hat on. So that is, so we say, it is not compulsory, but we go, and it's recommended, but we go further than that. We say dislike to pray without it. That's the Shk.Abu's opinion. Now recommended, okay, but we don't want it to be, as well, on the extreme, compulsory. Now we find in Pakistan, in any masjid I went, there is a basket outside. Before you enter the masjid, if you don't have the hat, you bring one of these straw hats, and they made them straw as well, because they don't want to make these ones, because people will pinch them. So they made the cheap ones, straw, they're really itchy. Put one of them, just to see it. So you take one, they put it, and they're really black, because there's so many heads going into it. And they put it on, as soon as they finish the prayer, put it off, and you rose. So I said, maybe the next box is going to be next to it, the beard. Just take one, put the hair. Third step will be a garment. I have seen the garment. I haven't seen the beard yet. But I have seen a garment which is hooked into the, mihrab. In Jordan, I've seen this mihrab, and there's a hanger. And there is a cloak in it. So the Imam came with jeans trousers, and he just wanted to lead the prayer, and he's got his beard, but his beard is actually, we call it paint beard, it's not beard, painted. There's no beard, just a paint. So he took that garment, that cloak, from that hanger, put it himself, did the prayer, Allahu Akbar, finished, and put it hanger, and came out with the jeans out. I said, SubhanAllah, this is really, really getting bad now. Very bad it's getting. Our Imam is like that. And now the Imams are just basically people who are employed in the Ministry of Endowments company. Ministry of Endowments is a company. They employ them. And the Imam is not even Hafiz. He is not. He's actually now got a monitor. And this monitor is in front of him that works with it, a watch. And that monitor will go, big, massive, he could read the Quran, mashallah. He flicks the button, the page will turn for him. And he reads. And of course, if it was during the night, or during the day because it's got light, if the electricity went off, I don't know if it's got backup batteries, but imagine that he's reading Taraweeh, and he's reading Surah At-Tawbah, or like Imam reading Surah Al-Munafiqun today, and in the middle, no light. I've asked this Imam who was doing it, the Imam of our masjid there, you're reading from the Quran, mashallah. You know, the one behind, he can't see the Quran monitor. He would say, mashallah, he's a Hafiz, no mistakes. And you go home thinking it's got no mistakes, but actually you're reading from the Quran. I said, what about if the electric went off? What would you do? He said, wallahi like this, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. That means he'll cut off his prayer, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, and then make ruku'. Second question, Uncle. When somebody dies, we must take what, Uncle? The garden of peace, yes. Okay. The question is that if the person dies in Luton, it is wrong to bury him in this graveyard because there is no separation between the Muslim and the non-Muslims burial. It's to transfer them to the Garden of Peace. Now, if the person is allowed to be buried in the Garden of Peace, I would actually urge him to do that. Because the Garden of Peace, it is actually a peaceful garden. Whereas the graves there on the Sunnah, and it's only Muslims there. So if the person can put in his butt, if it's going to be too much of a hustle, and the delaying is going to be in more than going to be a day, no, because you're going to delay him more than a day. It's not right. But if it's on the same day, you know, it takes from here to the Garden of Peace at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. 2 hours. And if you drive properly, an hour and a half. And the problem is that the funeral, they go slow. It's not supposed to go slow. And even the car that they put the deceased in, a horrible car, I don't like it. Black. Horrible car. It's not from the Sunnah at all. If I wish I could already make it painted black, white. And it drives very slow. And it's not from the Sunnah. I'm not saying to drive as well, crazy speed, you know. Speeding up, imagine that the police are going to, you know, stop a person will carry the deceased when you're speeding up. I'm just saying, normal speed 70 miles an hour on the motorway. Then I would say, yes, put in your will to be buried in that cemetery because there is no separation between the Muslims and non-Muslims. That separation just by simply a path is not enough. Is not enough. It has to be separate section properly. Now, so Jazakallah khairan for pointing that out, and it is to be buried there is better than be buried like mix it up. And you're going to be surrounded, by the way, by disbelievers. In that section which is being closed in the north, disbelievers around it, or true or not? Yes. So the other section which is being closed and finished. This section we're going to close as well. The ones from the other side are going to be what? Disbelievers, because disbelievers are more than us in number. So if we die in the ratio of maybe 1 to 5, so they're going to fill up the grave and they're going to encircle us. Now, Uncle, the last question, please, because we have to go.
I have 2 questions.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know, there's a brother here is a person who is a guest. I'd like to give him a question as well. Fadal.
I'm praying in my t-shirt, shirt, and if my child glance on the back and exposes my aura.
If he exposes your aura, the child, just put the shirt back and cover your aura. No problem.
No need to repeat the prayer.
If the child took the scarf of his mother and ran off, the mother could run behind him and take her scarf and continue prayer. Okay, second question.
When you come up the ruku, you need to hold your hands.
Putting the hand on the right and the left is a controversial. Majority of the scholars, they say don't. And I would say to you, the correct opinion for me, don't. But if the imam does it, you should do it. If your imam does it, you should do it. You follow your imam. Okay? Now, further. Recitation of the Fatiha behind the imam. There's books about this issue. Books. A controversial issue. هذه مسألة مختلف فيها. To recite, he's talking about recitation of the person behind the imam in the Jahriya prayer, not in the silent prayer. But in the silent prayer, everybody has to read the Fatiha. It's in the Jahriya. Do you read or not? Al-Imam al-Bukhari says you must read. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah and others, no, you don't have to read. Now, the ones who are wrong is the one who says you have to read, but they say if you come to the imam and he's in the ruku' and you made the ruku', you caught up with the rak'ah. Those are the ones who are wrong because they are contradicting themselves. They say you must read the Fatiha. Yet this person came in the ruku', did not catch up with the imam while he was in his upright position. And they said that so as long as he caught up with the ruku', he caught up with the rak'ah. That's wrong because you're contradicting yourself. You did not read the Fatiha. Do you understand me? So I would say the opinion which we believe is correct, if it is silent, you have to read. If it is jahri, loud, Maghrib, Isha, the first 2 rak'ah of the Maghrib, the first 2 rak'ah of the Isha, the 2 rak'ah of the Fajr, Taraweeh prayer, all of that, then your imam's recitation would be enough. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت